Ollie made a sound. It was supposed to be a word, but it came out as a guttural buzzing deep in his chest. "Do you hear that?" he asked, but Stephen was still ranting about potatoes. Ollie felt blood all over his chin and strung between his teeth. "I hear..." And then he lunged. The recording was shocking enough to silence the room. A man turning on his neighbor and savaging him, gone completely and cannibalistically insane without warning. The autopsy of both men, because Ollie had torn Stephen's throat out before anyone could intervene, had shown the fingerprints of the true killer. Dalina Vale, chief medic, began sliding her findings. "The planet is killing us and our crops with its song." Now, these are only a few excerpts from the latest short story, Just at the Edge of Hearing, that you can read on the official homepage for Exodus, Become the Traveler. And this short story in particular sets the tone for this upcoming RPG, a tone that paints all but a terrifying and brutal universe, too alien and too dangerous to comprehend. Now, Exodus has quickly risen to become one of my most anticipated upcoming games, partly thanks to this short story, but also due to other reasons, and that's what we'll be diving into today. First of all, what is Exodus? Well, as I just mentioned, Exodus is a science fiction RPG set tens of thousands of years into the future. A future that is all but hostile and unforgiving to the baseline human race. Now, I say baseline because you see, throughout the thousands of years that has passed in this universe, parts of humanity has evolved and become their own offshoot races that, according to studio head of Archetype Entertainment, James Olin, will be more alien than we've seen before in other media. An example of this are the Celestials, a category of evolved humans that have become so technologically advanced that they can do things like move hundreds of habitable planets to completely new systems, and construct interstellar highways called the Gates of Heaven, portals that are similar to the mass relays from the Mass Effect franchise. However, the Celestials aren't just one offshoot race. As I mentioned, this is a category composed of various offshoot races with their own cultures and motivations. One recent example is that of the Marayama, a pretty horrifying celestial race composed of entire colonies of Marayamas bound to each other seemingly at the molecular level. Here, I'll let Matthew McConaughey explain them to you.
Do you know what fear is? The Marayama do. They thrive on it. These monstrous celestials haunt the darkest corners of the cluster, hunting for isolated targets. And, unfortunately for their victims, the Marayama are interested in more than just stealing cargo. They want minds, memories, emotions. The more twisted and tortured, the better. Captured prey will be subjected to intense psychological torment before being neurologically drained. Those rare few who the Marayama allowed to survive and escape often never return to space, for they know too well the terror that lurks out there, in the dark, between the stars.
But the Marayama are not the only danger lurking in the void, but neither are you particularly safe planetside either. As you may recall from the short story at the start of this video, even entire planets can be deceivingly hostile, with the vibrations from movement of tectonic plates causing humans to experience intense psychological hallucinations, enough to cause extremely violent behavior. There's also the example of Emerald, a green world that appears as a paradise, yet proves to have a toxic atmosphere that's deadly to humans.
He couldn't have known the planet would be toxic. Could he?
Now, if the prospect of exploring a universe filled with mystery and danger isn't enough to pique your interest, then let's talk about some other details about this game that might put it on your radar. First off, when the game was announced back during the Game Awards 2023, it was presented by the one and only Matthew McConaughey.
I was going to come out and I was going to say the line that has preceded me all my career, all right, all right, all right, but they told me, they said, no, Don't do that. Come out and say, pew, pew, pew.
Now, we all know who this guy is by now. I don't think I really have to explain who Matthew is to you guys, but I'll say that I was just as surprised as you guys to see him take center stage to present the game. And what did he present exactly? Well, a game that will primarily be focusing on the effects of time dilation as a storytelling vehicle. To put it simply, as the traveler, you will be making choices that have consequences, both big and small, with repercussions that ripple through decades and centuries. See, when you use one of these gates of heaven to go between star systems, you will experience time dilation, as in time passes slower for you, but the system or planet that you're leaving will experience many, many years in the short while it takes for you to return. And so the system or planet you return to will be vastly different on your return, which, let's face it, is a pretty wild concept to begin with, especially so since Exodus will take your choices into consideration. Imagine something like the Mass Effect trilogy and the importance of Shepard's choices, but scale it 10 times over, perhaps even more so. Suffice it to say, Exodus is a pretty ambitious game, and Archetype Entertainment knows this, which is why we've seen so precious little gameplay as of today. However, what we have seen still looks pretty cool, especially since the footage is very early. Again, and this will probably become a pretty tired comparison for future videos, but the game is very reminiscent of Mass Effect, not just in terms of style, but in gameplay. It's a third-person shooter where, just like in classic BioWare style, you can bring several companions with you on your missions. For example, some sample text from the Exodus website says that you must rely on a combination of stealth, ingenuity, and firepower to defeat your foes. Using your unique genetic gifts, you must build an arsenal of weaponry and equipment that combines the best of human tech with salvaged celestial remnants. To me, this sounds like there will at least be some standard RPG mechanics involved, such as skill trees, weapon and armor crafting, and more. It's also been stated that we're on the hunt for celestial technology, so we'll most likely be using a lot of alien tech and highly advanced weaponry, which I'm very excited to see more of. To add to this idea, our player character supposedly has celestial DNA, which will allow them to interact with advanced technology, and it's most likely through this connection that we'll be making these system-spanning choices. The game will also have a pretty strong focus on mystery and exploration, as another sample text says, your epic journeys will take you across the systems of the vast Centauri cluster. With each Exodus, that being every time you go through a gate, you will visit uncharted and often hostile worlds in the hunt for celestial remnants. Whether exploring the ancient ruins of long-dead civilizations, interacting with strange alien cultures and societies, or infiltrating deadly celestial strongholds, you must unearth what has been hidden and rediscover what has been lost. As you can see, the game will obviously focus on the joy of exploration, but you don't have to worry, this is most likely not a Starfield situation. There will be exploration, but this game will mostly be focused on storytelling. Now, one question that's been floating around is about the player character. Supposedly, our name is Jun, or June, and just like expected in an RPG such as this, you'll be creating your own version of June. We've already seen from some of the promo art that there are a variety of ways your June can look like, where on one hand it looks like you can pick a version that's very genetically altered, one that almost appears android-like in nature, and of course the regular old vanilla human. And obviously, these are just example images, and I'd expect a fairly advanced character creator when the game does arrive. Now, of course, the protagonist is only as interesting as their companions, and so far, we've learned that there will be at least 5 companions, 2 of them being Tom Vargas, the guy we saw in the reveal trailer, and Elise Charroux, a mercenary and weapons expert who controls a big mech and who kind of reminds me of Judy from Cyberpunk 2077, which is always a good thing. Obviously, one role that we've yet to see revealed is that of Matthew McConaughey's, but we do know the name of his character, which supposedly is ZZ Orlev. All we know about his character is that he'll be sort of a guide throughout the game, yet in what form, we just don't know. It could be that he's just a voice that we'll be speaking to after our major decisions, or perhaps he's a physical character we get to hang out with. Still, I'm very, very curious as to what role he will play, as I'm personally a big fan of Matthew's. What I'm also a big fan of are some of the devs working on this game. If you haven't looked at any of the information about this game so far, well, let's just say that it's got quite the team behind it. James Olin and Chad Robertson are the leads for this game, and they're both veterans of BioWare back during its golden days. James, for example, was the lead designer on Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and of course Dragon Age Origins. So to say that this game is in good hands is a massive understatement. Drew Karpyshyn, the lead writer of Mass Effect and KOTOR, is also the lead writer for Exodus, which to many is a massive win as well. Their team is also comprised of veterans from Naughty Dog, 343 Industries, and others, so suffice it to say, Exodus has a pretty strong gang of developers making it. But that's gonna have to do it for now. If you want more Exodus updates, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as I'm sure we'll start seeing more and more stuff about the game in the coming months, and of course I will be reporting on it. Also, let me know what you're thinking of the game so far. Are you liking what you're seeing? Are there some worries here? Do let me know, as I do read most of the comments and I have a lot of fun reading through most of them. Anyways, this has been Mr. Holton. I should go.